You can make sure you don't go bankrupt even when you're at fault. I mean, will they listen to me if I call and I say, I want to negotiate your terms here? I'm not happy. No.
We are going to talk about the power of contracts. And contracts are the backbone of almost every business relationship. And today we're going to share a lot about that. And we're going to talk about more specifically the limitation of liability. So stick around to hear what it is and why you need such a contract. And Kat, she's here with us as usual. Let's start.
Yep. So what is it, right?
Yeah.
What is a limitation of liability, and why does every contract basically have it? And why do you need it, and why do you be careful if other people have it towards you? So let's imagine that you are a gym owner.
Yes.
Going great, right?
Yep.
You have one big gym in the middle of the city in London. And then one weekend, a plumber comes working for you, helping you out with women's locker room. And then on Monday morning you show up and it's water all over the gym.
I would be devastated.
You cannot open.
No.
But you know it was the plumber, right? And you can even see that he forgot the water tap on.
Yeah.
So what do?
I call the plumber.
You call the plumber, yell.
Yeah.
And he comes with a contract and says, but you know what? You're trying to say that renovating all of the floors and keeping the gym closed for a month would cost you 1 million. But in the contract, I have a limitation of liability for 10,000. So I cannot be obliged to pay you more than 10,000, no matter how great the damage is for you.
And even though it's proved that it's the plumber's fault?
Depending on how.
Okay.
How did a fault come about? So, the basic is that a limitation of liability will put a cap in some form on your risk, how much you will be forced to pay in case of fault. So even if you're at fault, you might not have to pay all of the damages, all of the losses for the other party. And we have 3 ways of capping that you should try. It will be the amount, how much. Often a limitation of liability will say that I will, no matter what, I will not pay you more damages or hold you harmless for more than the fees you have paid me for a year. So 12-month paid fees. Because, I mean, this can be consulting, it can be a product, it can be a one-off, whatever the contract concerns. And you as the buyer might not like that. Because what if you pay your fees later on? So the damage might occur early on when you have hardly paid any fees. But the damage is huge. So that can be a tricky one. Watch out for only the fees having been paid, and you as the seller will want it to only be the fees having been paid. Okay. Or it can be a much higher or a lower amount, depending on the negotiations. It can also be a limitation on what type of damages. So no indirect damages, no loss of income, no loss of profit. So only kind of direct damages. Like what did it cost to actually redo the floor? Right?
Yeah.
And also it can be limited in time. The limitation of liability, I will provide you services today, I will be a plumber. They will only last for 6 months. If you find something after that, you cannot come after me.
Wow. But this sounds, because if I am the gym owner, I'm coming on Monday, I'm terrified. I mean, the only thing I have in mind in that case is to get the gym open. I mean, one day is, you get so stressed.
Yeah.
I don't think, I'm talking for myself, that I would like read the agreements and watch out, look for the limitation of liability, because you're so stressed just to get everything fixed.
Indeed.
Is it common that you miss out on these kinds of things?
Absolutely.
I mean, do you even sign an agreement with the plumber every time?
Yeah. Typically, it's kind of in the terms and conditions. So let's jump back to the situation where the water tap was on.
Yes.
It's immensely important for you to know that there will be limits on how far-reaching the limitation of liability can go.
Yeah.
So in pretty much all jurisdictions, you cannot cap out if you've been conducted willful misconduct, or, I mean, imagine if you've been fraudulent or gross negligent. So if you left the water tap on, perhaps that was gross negligent, and perhaps you can go after me for more. We don't know. But that's typically, you cannot limit away that.
No, but you have to have proof for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also another way that's good if you're the seller to limit your liability is that you can say that I will only be responsible and have to pay you if you use my product or my service in accordance with instructions. Imagine again, you're the gym owner and somebody uses the equipment completely crazy.
Yeah.
Or something completely else.
Yeah.
They use a machine that's 4 legs for stretching their arms and they pull a muscle.
Yeah.
Then you can limit your liability in that sense.
Okay. So it's not being used right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, what you cannot limit away typically in relation to end consumers, you cannot be as harsh, you cannot push the limitation of liability as far as you can between two equal business partners, B2B contracting partners.
Wow. So this is a lot of information. So as a business owner, you need to be very careful in what the agreement says or the terms and conditions.
Yeah. And I must also say that this is one of the best inventions ever.
Yeah.
You can limit your liability. I mean, wow.
That's so good.
You can make sure you don't go bankrupt if something goes wrong, even when you're at fault. That's amazing. So, I mean, it's a magic clause to have, and it's a magic clause to understand, no matter which side of the table you're on.
Yeah.
And just to go back to that, like, why? Why would anybody accept that? Like you said, if you're a stressed business owner, you just sign the agreement. And we can go for another example. Imagine that I produce screws, little screws. And you are an airline company. You're like Delta Airways or something. And I deliver screws for 100,000 a year to you. I have a limitation of liability that says that I will not be liable for more than 100,000, the cap, what I received 12 months, right? But then your inspector finds something wrong with one of the screws. And you have to put all of your airplanes, like 10 airplanes, on the ground. How much would that cost you?
A lot.
And whose fault was it?
The screw's fault.
Yeah. And I have a limitation of liability on that.
Yes.
So why would you accept that? I mean, for me as a small business owner, that's a way to ensure I will survive. For me, it's obvious, right?
Yes.
I wouldn't sell to you otherwise.
But on the other hand, if you're not that person.
If you're the big airplane company.
Yeah.
Because perhaps it will be impossible to buy from me. Because it's a risk sharing. And I couldn't afford to have that kind of insurance to cover me having unlimited liability if I sell to airplane companies.
Yeah, imagine 10 planes on the ground for like one day. It's very expensive.
And I'm a mom and pop business.
Yes.
So I cannot sell to airlines. And then the airlines can't get the products they need. So perhaps overall the risk sharing makes it more safe and easier for the airline to have the insurance it needs than for me to have it. So one reason is dividing the risk so that the transaction is as at low cost as is possible in total. The other one is power. Because, I mean, if I'm a mom and pop business and I want to utilize a service from Microsoft and then read the terms and conditions and they have limitation of liability, I mean, will they listen to me if I call and I say, I want to negotiate your terms here. I'm not happy. I want you to raise it.
Yes. I don't think so.
No. So number 2 is just the power dynamics. Sometimes it's just one part is powerful enough to have a limitation of liability and it's take it or leave it for me. They won't listen to me really. And the third one, and that's the one when you were on about with the plumber, who's the smartest, who's the savviest, who did the agreement? Did the other party, I mean, when it's two smaller businesses, are both parties in the know. So both parties know what to look out for, or has one party drafted it with the help of a lawyer and the other party does not really know. So watch out, because if you're in the third section, there's really room for negotiation. And if it's a long-term partner, it can be incredible. I mean, imagine as a business owner having
Yes.
to pay $500,000 yourself or getting it covered when somebody else screws up.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're almost always like just stressing to get the business going, and sometimes the economics are less paved, so it's hard to, I mean, just to see yourself paying that much in case of a catastrophe I did not cause, I would.
I mean, when it happens and you notice it, it's not that
Yeah,
fun.
no, it's not.
And another recommendation is, in particular, if you're on the buy side, if you're in a business negotiation for 3 months, and then you finally committed and you're so, yes, we find the price, we have found the collaboration, and you start looking at the contract, it's kind of hard to start pushing back on the limitation of liability. You're so deep in it already, you're so committed already. So don't wait too long until you look at the contract. Ask for it early on so you can bring it up in the negotiations as one of the leverages, together with the price and all of the other conditions. One more thing that's really good to know when you're drafting
Yes.
a limitation of liability is that in some jurisdictions, it needs to be conspicuous in order to be enforced. So you might need to use capital letters, highlight it in some form so it's not too hidden away in the terms and conditions.
Ah, okay.
So be mindful what jurisdiction you're in if you want to impose it, so you can be as sure as possible that it will hold up in court. Because many of the disputes are about if the limitation of liability will hold up or not.
Okay, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
Thank you so much for explaining. I got it really good. So, I mean, I hope you learned a lot today from this. And that's why we're here, because we want to share knowledge to make you have the opportunity to take mindful decision and also take good decisions in your company that is easy for you to make money and not losing it. This is useful tips, tricks, and laws that you can apply to your company. And if you have any more questions, just drop them down below. And do not forget to like and subscribe and put that little bell button so that you get a notice when you have a new episode. So I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.